From the headquarters of Fight Back Media, The Morning Report, with your host, Willie Lawson. Good morning, and welcome to The Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of FightBackMedia.com, 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 and FightBackMediaTV.com. I trust that you are well this glorious day. It is about, what time is it? About 11:30, about 90 degrees here in West Central Florida. And it hasn't rained in a few days, so the temperature is creeping up. It's supposed to rain a little bit this weekend. So if you are making a trip here to West Central Florida for like Disney World, Universal, Busch Gardens, SeaWorld, it's going to be hot. And then it's going to be wet. It's going to be hot again. It is. It's great. Other than that, it is fantastic. It is fantastic. And the stories just keep popping. They just keep popping. You know that many times I've told you that the left wants you, especially the leftist media and the like, wants you not to see what you're actually seeing. Story about Paul Krugman doing just that concerning the BLM riots that happened in 2020. They want to memory hold this so badly that they have supposedly credentialed and honorable journalists telling you that that didn't happen. What you saw with your own eyes didn't actually happen. Did not happen. What else is going on? There was a Zawahiri strike. Apparently, the head of Al Qaeda has been offed in a drone strike by the United States. Now, we were under the impression that Al Qaeda was done, right? We'll talk a little bit about what it actually means, what it doesn't mean, for sure. Even the Wall Street Journal has come out and said the Manchin-Schumer package. Again, this is the mistake that Joe Manchin has made. Now he is inexorably tied to Chuck Schumer. You remember how you remember the Gang of Eight? Remember the Gang of Eight? And how Marco Rubio is still. I mean, I hear when I talk to the people about Marco Rubio, people still bring up the Gang of Eight. He is inexorably tied to them. Never going to be released from that madness ever. Didn't set it up correctly to start with, and that is never. And he's inexorably tied to that. Joe Manchin now is inexorably tied to Chuck Schumer, unless he decides at some point to walk up to Schumer and punch him in the face on live C-SPAN. He's stuck there, and I think this is a problem for him going forward, legislatively and legacy wise. I think this is a problem for him. But we're going to talk about this whole idea that it doesn't raise taxes on the non-rich. We're going to find out that what we knew, that's not true. It's Tuesday. Tuesday is primary day in America. Election day in America. So we're going to tell you some stuff to be watching today. If you are in a state where there's a primary going on and there is some shenanigans where you are, send us an email at fightbackmedia@gmail.com, fightbackmedia@gmail.com. Please do that so we can push that out, that you saw some things that don't seem right. We're going to take the attitude, see something, say something, and get things documented. Golly, it's so important that things get documented, and get documented by us, not necessarily get documented by mainstream media, because we know that they cannot be trusted, can they? No, of course not. All right. It has been my thought, in my opinion, for years now that the left memory hold stuff, and they want us to not see what we're actually seeing. And they have cranked that up so hard through, especially in the past 3 years, especially with COVID, and what happened in in 2020 when we're talking about the BLM riots, uh, and now with the R word, with recession. It's not really a recession. Two successive quarters of GDP drop is called a recession. That's what a recession is. But now economists and New York Times columnist Paul Krugman said it's wrong for Americans to believe widespread BLM riots occurred in 2020. What? Calling it one of the many dystopian myths in the nation. Krugman went as far even to say that the destruction of New York City never happened. Now, if you are listening to this program and you are in New York City, send me an email and tell me what you saw. Well, first of all, he says, there's a specific issue of the whole Black Lives Matter demonstrations, which a large part of the country, certainly a lot of the mail I get, people think that lots of Manhattan was burned to the ground. Krugman told CNN and Brian Stelter on Sunday. They think that it was a normally destructive thing, when in fact, this is what he said, there was some arson, looting, but actually not really very much. And in a country the size of the United States, and for the demonstrations that size, so they think yes, and you're in Manhattan, right? I mean, you know that there are not a lot of burned out, shelled out buildings. It's just never happened. But they're told that it did, Krugman says. Well, it's interesting. One of the things that happened not far from me, as Krugman is saying this, I'm sitting right now in a chair not far from where there was a burned out gas station in Tampa. Not far from there was a burned out shoe store. Not far from here. Another looted shoe store that direction. Yeah, the other two were this direction. So Krugman and others on the left, what they're trying to do is they're trying to diminish the violence, almost to the point where this is something, we're going to have to accept. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't nearly as bad as they're saying. It wasn't that bad. He also added, while violent crime is up since 2020, it's also wrong to assume New York City is a dangerous place, because crime rates were worse during the 70s and 90s. Again, is this diminution of what's happening now? Well, it was worse before. It's not so bad now. It's up. And this is something that we're wrong to talk about. And apparently we're just supposed to accept it. But the 2020 riot sparked over the death of George Floyd while in Minneapolis police custody resulted in $2 billion in damage and over 20 deaths across the country. In New York specifically, over 450 businesses were damaged to varying degrees by mid-June, according to the New York Post. So I guess, the entire area of Manhattan didn't burn to the ground, except if it was your business. So if it was your business or your home or one of your loved ones that was shot dead in the street, I guess it wasn't that bad. I mean, if you lived somewhere else and it didn't touch you, I guess it wasn't that bad. This is more of the let them eat cake mentality. It didn't happen to me. So in addition to spouting BLM riot denialism, Krugman said the country is not in a recession. Surprise, friggin' surprise. And people are quite well off. This despite the fact that the U.S. has met the commonly accepted definition of recession, which is having 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. This is something that we have taken as this is the definition of recession. But not now, not with these people in charge. Oh no, got to change the definition. Nope, nope, not a recession. Got to look at more things. People are quite well off. Do you feel quite well off? If, again, if you believe that you're in a recession, please, and things are happening in your house, and you're watching your food bill and your gas bill go up beyond where you can really handle it. Again, send us an email at fightbackmedia@gmail.com. We want to amplify what you're going through. We truly want to amplify what you're going through. I know that my TikTok listeners, followers are up, and we're getting more new people into the website every single day. I think we're actually going to start getting some new YouTube subscribers too. I don't know. We've been stuck at this one number for months and months. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get some more YouTube followers. But I really wanted to be able to amplify what you're going through. We're seeing it at my house. We're seeing that money is not going nearly as far, which Paul Krugman, who is rich, a rich journalist from New York, doesn't really see. This is more let them eat cake stuff. People are quite well off. No, they're not. No, they're not. People are surviving. People are surviving on credit cards. People are surviving. Because we don't have bread lines doesn't mean that people are quite well off, Paul. You're not. And you know what? And you know that. And the thing is, these people, we like to think of these people are just disconnected and stupid. They're not. They're lying. They're lying. And they know they're lying. Because they are willing to go to hell over it. They are. Which is a frightening thing. Yesterday, President Biden announced that a U.S. drone strike took out Al Qaeda's leader. And I hate these names, but you know what else? Aman al-Zawahiri in Kabul, Afghanistan, over the weekend. Now, again, we were told that there was no Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. Anyway, and while the news is welcome, given his role in planning 9/11, questions are being raised about the administration's account of the strike. Our intelligence community located Zawahiri earlier this year. He had moved to downtown Kabul to reunite the members of his immediate family. After carefully considering the clear and convincing evidence of his location, I authorized a precision strike that would remove him from the battlefield once and for all. Joe's tough now. The president also claimed the strike was so successful that none of his family members were hurt, and there were no civilian casualties. So this drone strike, this missile, just found Zawahiri and just took him out, and nothing around him was injured. If that's true, it's a real win, I guess, commented Fred Fleets, vice chair of for America First Policy Institute Center for American Security. But let me throw some cold water on this. The former CIA analyst and National Security Council chief went on to raise a number of questions about the attack during an interview with Fox News's Brett Baier. This is what he says. I'm skeptical that a year after the disastrous U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, this happens. I'd like to know how this happened and how it happened. Do we know that Zawahiri was really killed? There's no Western media on the ground to confirm this, and were civilians killed also? We know that there were other drone strikes that this administration launched after the disastrous explosion in Kabul in August, and we were told no civilians were killed, and that wasn't true. Police also called for Congress to investigate what really happened during the strike, since the administration has a history of saying things that aren't accurate. I love how people put this. How knowing that the administration has a history of just lying to us to our face. I hope that this is true, and I want to give Joe Biden credit. Please continue, but I also want them to investigate this to find out what really happened. It seems hard to believe that after that was such a cluster, you know what, getting out of Afghanistan, that their intelligence is so good, they knew exactly where the dude was, and you use exactly the right tool to pluck that dude out of the planet, to unalive that guy and not unalive anybody else. That sounds like a sniper thing. That would have to be a sniper thing. He would have to go around one side of the car after letting his family in the other side of the car, and some sniper would have to take him out. Doesn't sound like a drone strike. But according to NPR, who apparently had a team on the ground in Afghanistan the day of the strike, explosions were heard Sunday local time. People began sharing images of multi-story houses and with windows blown out. And it's a house in Shapur, in the Shapur neighborhood. Steve in Inskeep said rumors did quickly spread that it was a drone attack, which Biden confirmed. Well, we're talking about multi-story houses and windows blown out. Doesn't sound like a precision strike to me, but whatever. The Taliban put out a statement overnight, said that the investigation confirmed that American drones, plural drones, conducted the attack. They didn't say a word about casualties, and they complained about the attack and said it was a violation of international agreements. Well, you know, I don't really care about the Taliban talking about international agreements. I just don't care. Who cares that they're talking about international agreements? The Taliban? Really? Who gives a crap what they say? I mean, seriously, who cares? Let me see here. Let me get my screens. Get my screens operating. There you go. So we'll see, right? We will see. Speaking of Tuesday, was that my Tuesday? Next Tuesday, I have the privilege of sitting down with Nehemiah Jefferson, America's tax attorney. You've heard his advertising on the program, and we're going to sit down and talk about what's happening in the world, what's happening in our country, and what can be done and what needs to be done, and what my part is and what his part is, and most importantly, what your part is in it all. So we're going to sit down and have a video interview, and then we're going to, and hopefully it's going to happen on Tuesday. It probably won't be up until either late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning. So look for it. It's going to be fire. It's going to be fire. Fire. And if you need a tax attorney, and it looks like you might, well, I'll talk to you about the next story. Go ahead and Google America's tax attorney, Nehemiah Jefferson, and he'll help you out. He's a good dude, smart, honest, honorable. He ain't gonna let you do nothing. He ain't gonna let you do nothing illegal or sneaky or slimy. But he will help you and make sure that you do it the right way. That's the best thing. Now, the dust is still settling from the surprise announcement of a huge tax and spend deal forward between Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer late last week. The editors of the Wall Street Journal argued that Democrats may want to rush the package to a vote as soon as possible, because the more Americans learn what's in this tax and spend behemoth, the more they'll dislike it. And that's been the thing. You remember Nancy Pelosi. We have to pass it to see. We have to pass the bill to see what's in it. What? No one's had chance. No one's had a chance to read this. No one's had a chance to put this. You know, I'm going to go back to this, and I need my coffee for this, definitely. Is it so hard? I mean, they got these bills printed. Is it so hard to make PDFs and put these PDFs on the internet so we can all go through them? None of us has time or the ability to read the whole thing. None of us have time, but together we can split it up. We can get our friends and neighbors, and we could send everybody 10 pages. Go through these 10 pages, highlight something that you found interesting, and then we can ask questions, right? Why don't they want us asking questions? Because the evidence is emerging that the new Schumer Manchin 15% minimum tax on corporate on corporate book income is especially harmful to the U.S. manufacturing firms. In an analysis by Congress's Joint Committee on Taxation, which is hardly the nest of supply siders, really, found that 49.7% of the tax would hit U.S. manufacturers. One well-known economic truth is that corporations don't really pay taxes. They are essentially tax collectors. As the corporate tax rate ultimately falls on some combination of workers, shareholders, and customers, raise the corporate tax rate and you're cutting wages and salaries for workers. No surprise, that's exactly what the Joint Committee on Taxation found in its analysis of the Schumer Manchin bills on distributional impact. The JCT found the average tax rates will increase for nearly every income category in 2023 under the bill. Taxes will rise by $16.7 billion in 2023 on Americans earning less than $200,000 a year. Taxpayers earning between $200,000 and $500,000 a year will pay $14.1 billion more. This gives the lie to Democrats' claim that no one earning under $400,000 will pay more in taxes under the bill, a promise that President Biden also made in his campaign. The reality is that the Schumer Manchin bill is a tax increase for almost every American. See, this is the game they play. And we've said this before, and you know this. This is the game they play. The game they play is we're going to get the rich. Eat the rich, right? We're going to get the rich, tax the rich. They play this class warfare nonsense. None of us work for poor people. Unless you are in government employed, none of us work for poor people. None of us work for people who are struggling to pay their electric bill like we are. None of us work for people who are struggling to put gas in their car like we are. None of us work for people who are struggling to put food on the table like we are. None of us work for those people. We don't. That's reality. That's friggin' reality. So if your boss, now I'm trying to break this down for you. So if your boss, the owner of the company that you work for, gets the tax bill, and what they normally do is they pass that off as a cost of doing business. How can they adjust what they pay out to make sure the government gets theirs? How can they do that? Well, the first thing they can do is they can raise the price of their product, which ends up jumping. So that tax jumps over them and falls to me. Because now I'm paying that increase. The second part of that is, well, we were planning on raising salaries. Nope, we can't raise salaries. As a matter of fact, we might even have to cut some positions. So that tax that jumped over the business went right to the employees. Now they're paying the difference, either by not getting those raises or actually losing their jobs. So there are moms and dads and grandpas out there who have 401ks and other investment tools to help them through their retirement. They're not living lavishly, but they're just trying to get through their retirement. That tax hops over over the business owner and goes right to the shareholders. Now, they like to make us think that shareholders are big cats smoking cigars and so, and white them $100 bills. Most shareholders are people who are in money market funds, 401ks, and the like. So that's where a lot of shareholders are. They take the hit too. Pensions, the ones that are left, are in the stock market. They take the hit. Those are the shareholders. So these taxes jump over what they're telling you the target is. Fat cats, man, the rich. They fall right on me. They fall right on you. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. And I'm not carrying water for the uber rich. I'm just trying to put an umbrella up to make sure that I don't get soaked. We're trying to put an umbrella up so make sure that you don't get soaked. But somebody's got to tell the truth about this stuff. The president has sworn up and down that in his administration, nobody earning less than $400,000 annually will see any tax increase. That was demonstrably false. When he first started issuing that pledge based on his own stated plans, it has been proven false several times during his presidency. This is just another betrayal of his poll-tested claim, designed to bamboozle the non-rich taxpayers into thinking they'll be safe from Democrats' rapturous appetite for more government revenues. I'm not sure what is more shameless, Biden repeating his debunked and violated tax lie ad nauseum, or Manchin claiming that the new bill doesn't raise taxes at all. It does, by hundreds of billions of dollars. No one was disputing that until Manchin made his novel argument over the weekend. Speaking of shameless National Review's editorial board address, the Biden media fact checker spin and 2 consecutive quarters of economic contraction doesn't not really count as recession. Here's what the National Review says. It's almost comical how much work the Biden administration is putting into denying that the U.S. economy has entered a recession. Here's what is not in dispute. 1, real GDP is contracting and appears to have been for a half year now. 2 consecutive quarters, that's 6 months, friends, half a year of GDP contraction is a commonly accepted definition of recession when there is a Republican incumbent facing re-election. When Democrats are in danger of a midterm wipeout, recession becomes a term of art. Wow. The Biden administration has really been trying to work the National Bureau of Economic Research, who are the guys who decide whether to call the recession a recession. 2, the labor market isn't actually strong. If the labor market were strong, then real wages will be going up and the number of jobs would have recovered to its pre-COVID level. If not, they have not. Neither of these things have happened. In fact, real wages are going down, not up. So Krugman is a flat out liar when he says people are well off. Which is to say Americans are working more hours for less pay. Hardly a sign of good job market. Is it a recession or not? Whatever the NBER calls it, it's 9.1% inflation, declining real incomes, and declining economic output. That's a recession. Again, we're back to the very same thing. If I could, if you could walk away from this this broadcast today with one thing in your brain, that the left always wants you to not see what you're actually seeing. They participate in this emperor's new clothes mentality. You can see that the emperor is naked. You can see that with your very own eyes. And they want to tell you that if you don't see the beautiful suit of clothes, then you're not looking at it directly. You're not looking at it correctly. That's what they want you to do. That's how they want you to believe. So what are we going to do about it? Well, it's Tuesday. Tuesday in a midterm year. So after a mostly primaryless July, the first Tuesday in August means it's back to partisan battles pitting Republicans and Democrats against each other to determine the candidates who will carry the GOP banner into November's consequential midterms, now less than 100 days away. Here in Florida, I think our early voting starts next Monday. Looking forward to it. This week, voters in Arizona, Missouri, Michigan, Kansas, and Washington will make their voices heard. We're watching these elections, and if there is something incredible and bizarre, Paul and I will get on later this evening, or we will go ahead and leave some time for tomorrow to cover the aftermath of what happened this evening. Arizona, because in Arizona, most of the polls close 10 p.m. Arizona Eastern time. But results are held until the last polls in the Navajo Nation close at 11 Eastern time. So it's kind of late. In the Grand Canyon State, Republican U.S. Senate and gubernatorial races are the two to watch. Running to succeed current GOP Governor Doug Ducey are Carrie Lake and Karen Taylor Robinson. Lake, a former TV reporter, is Trump's pick in the contest, while Robinson is backed by Pence and Ducey. Yeah, it should be interesting anyway. The latest Emerson poll has the race in a statistical dead heat, with Robinson at 47% and Lake at 46%. Whichever Republican wins the primary will likely face Democrat Katie Hobbs, Arizona Secretary of State, in November's general election. In the GOP U.S. Senate primary, candidates include Trump-endorsed Blake Masters and Jim Lamon, and current Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich. The race has gotten a little messy since Trump's attacked Brnovich, but Masters is leading the polls and has done well with the backing of Peter Thiel. Remember him? It's been a long time since I heard of Peter Thiel. Of course, across the aisle, incumbent Democrat Senator Mark Kelly, who won the 2020 special election to serve out the rest of the Senator John McCain's term, will seek to defend his seat and be elected for the first time for a full term in November. The polls close at 8 o'clock Eastern time in Kansas, and there's some things there. 9 o'clock for Michigan Eastern time. Missouri, 8 o'clock. Washington polls close on a per county basis until 2 a.m. Wednesday here in Eastern time. So they're going to say, they can stay open stay open all night. Let's see, till at least 11 their time. This is the time that changes get made in what little of our system that we have left. You can't be beaten down so much that you throw up your hands and don't participate. Yes, I've seen 2,000 Mules. Yes, I have. Do I trust that every election will be fraud-free? Not at all. Not even a little bit. I don't. It's hard to, right? It's hard to. But it doesn't mean that we don't participate. Because if we don't participate, we know exactly what's going to happen, right? If we participate, we have a shot. We throw our hands up, we got no shot. It's Tuesday. If you're in one of the states that we mentioned, and those states are, in case you didn't know, and if you didn't know, shame on you, Arizona, Missouri, Michigan, Kansas, and Washington. Go make your voice heard today. Go make your voice heard. My name is Willie Lawson. This has been the Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.